Max Verstappen did it second.
Yeah, I think we made up a lot of positions and the car was really good.
How has he managed to keep that away from the Armco? It might...
I had a massive moment in turn 14, I
For
think
the
it was.
60th time in Formula One.
I'm coming closer, so yeah, we tried to continue like this.
Max Verstappen, the most important win of his Formula One career.
Picture this. An 18-year-old kid steps into the cockpit of a Formula One car and demolishes the entire field.
Yes! Yes!
Unbelievable, Max.
Unthinkable? Yet on May 15th, 2016, Max Verstappen pulled off exactly that in Barcelona.
Max has done some spectacular moves this year.
The F1 world exploded as the teenage debutant obliterated expectations and record books in one unforgettable afternoon ESPN.com. But long before that moment of glory, Max's story had already been years in the making. A whirlwind journey from karting prodigy to F1 sensation. Max's early beginnings and rapid rise. Max Verstappen's talent was written in his genes. He's the son of Jos Verstappen, the first Dutchman ever to stand on an F1 podium, and former kart racer Sophie Marie Kumpen. Growing up under that legacy, little Max couldn't wait to race. By age 7, he was already winning kart races in Belgium, and he never stopped piling up trophies. In 2013, he captured nearly every title on the karting scene, including the CIKF IAKZ World Championship at just 16. Drivers who went up against him that year knew they were looking at something special. Almost as soon as he was old enough, Verstappen leapt into single-seaters. In 2014, he graduated straight to the hyper-competitive European Formula 3 series.
Verstappen's trying to go around the outside. This is a bit audacious. Would have had the inside line, nearly worked, and just goes across the bows of Jake Dennis.
What happened next was astonishing. In his rookie F3 season, he won 6 races on the trot and the prestigious Masters support race at Zandvoort. Even though Esteban Ocon beat him for the title on tiebreakers,
Verstappen impressively manages a second hat-trick in a row.
Max's raw speed and fearlessness made headlines. Before the season even ended, the Red Bull Racing Academy had noticed. In August 2014, the team announced he'd joined their junior program, and just 6 days later, they revealed he would replace Jean-Éric Vergne at Toro Rosso for 2015. In other words, at 17 years old, Max was suddenly locked in as the youngest driver ever set to start an F1 race. His first year in F1 only confirmed what the junior ranks hinted at. The Toro Rosso was underpowered and unreliable, but Verstappen still shone. He scored points and even finished 4th in Hungary and again in Austin. On his first visit to Monaco, he even clocked the second fastest time in first practice, a jaw-dropping feat on the tiny streets, before a race day blunder cost him. By the end of 2015, rumors swirled that Ferrari also wanted to sign him, but Red Bull moved first. With young Daniil Kvyat struggling at Red Bull and Max impressing constantly, the Austrian outfit made it official. Verstappen would race for them in 2016. With that, the Belgian-born Dutch teen had climbed from karting tracks to a championship-winning team's garage faster than anyone could remember. Mid-season Red Bull promotion and team dynamics. Hooked in at Toro Rosso, it seemed Max's F1 story was already remarkable, then Red Bull stirred the pot. After only 4 races in 2016, the top team decided to promote him. Daniil Kvyat had twice collided with Sebastian Vettel in recent races, and the bosses in Milton Keynes were running out of patience, so they pulled the trigger. Verstappen was called up from Toro Rosso to the main Red Bull racing seat for the very next race, the Spanish Grand Prix. At 18, he got the call every kid dreams of. That Barcelona weekend, all eyes were on the rookie. Despite the sudden pressure, Max delivered from the start. He went 6th, 8th, and 4th in practice, then qualified an astounding 3rd in Q1 and Q2, and 4th in Q3. Everyone in the paddock realized he belonged. Now his teammate was 2-time race winner Daniel Ricciardo, an upbeat Australian 2 decades his senior. Max was stepping into the hot seat of the championship-winning car from 2015 in front of the world's media. Yet he never looked fazed. He didn't smoke the leaders off the line, he knew his place, but he quietly outdrove expectations. Team principal Christian Horner later recalled how Max hasn't put a wheel wrong all weekend. Teammate Ricciardo focused on maximizing podiums, while Max stayed composed. Even veteran Kimi Raikkonen, twice his age, had to work to find a way past the kid. By race day, the paddock buzzed. A Dutch teenager in a Red Bull was about to get his chance. The spoils of that chance would start pouring in from lap 1. The 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, how it unfolded. The Catalan sun beat down on a stunned grid. In the blink of an eye, racing's biggest showdown turned chaotic. At turn 3 on the opening lap, Nico Rosberg squeezed Lewis Hamilton wide. The ensuing drama was almost surreal. Mercedes' championship favorites slammed into one another and both cars went out. All of a sudden, the front of the field was bizarrely clear. On one side, the path was open for Red Bull. On the other, Ferrari was poised with Raikkonen and Vettel. For the entire first hour, the crash replay ran on loop. But out on track, the race had just begun. Into this void roared Max Verstappen. Calmly, he settled into Red Bull's lead role. Daniel Ricciardo had taken the lead through the melee, but strategy soon cycled Max into first. For the final laps, he faced down Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen in a duel of generations. Kimi, a 36-year-old former champion, breathing down the young Dutchman's neck. Lap after lap, Max held fast. Tire after tire, he fended off every attempt to overtake. Then on lap 44, it was on the radio. Max was asked to tell the marshals to wave the back markers past so he could focus. "I thought, don't look at it. Focus on the tires and bring it home," he later said. There was a notable pause in his voice, then a grim smile when the flag fell. He had done it. The margin was tiny, 0.616 seconds, but it was enough. When Verstappen crossed the finish line, he made history. At 18 years and 228 days old, he became the youngest Grand Prix winner of all time, smashing Sebastian Vettel's record by years. He was also the first Dutchman to win an F1 race ever. Amid the cheers, Verstappen limped around triumphantly on cold tires and raised his fist. A new superstar was born. On the podium, the moment felt electric. Max toasted his Red Bull win with champagne and lingered on the top step well after the Ferraris had gone. The aftermath. Media reaction and new superstar. What started as a curious career move turned into a legend overnight. When the world caught its breath, everyone in the sport was talking about Verstappen. Formula One's own website later described that race as one of the sport's greatest and said Max well and truly arrived. News broke that his dad called his son's breakthrough unbelievably special. On TV and radio, Dutch fans erupted. Famous broadcaster Olaf Mol nearly teared up on air in Dutch exultation. Even rivals had to applaud. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff summed it up. "On a bad day for us, Max sprinkled a bit of magic on the sport," he smiled. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner couldn't stop praising the rookie.
It's fantastic for Formula One. You know, to have a new winner, to have a youngster.
He hasn't put a wheel wrong. He's been quick, measured, mature. To win his first Grand Prix on his debut for the team is fairy tale stuff, he said. Across paddocks and press conferences, the word was out. A prodigy had arrived. ESPN noted that Verstappen had obliterated F1's record books, becoming the sport's youngest ever winner. The Netherlands, a country not known for F1 stars, went wild. Orange-clad fans started chanting, do, Max Verstappen, and tearing up at the Dutch national anthem. Newspapers hailed him as a national hero. Corporations lined up to sponsor the new phenom. In short order, Max Verstappen had flipped from talented rookie to global sensation. His social media exploded, and every TV highlight reel ended with Max Verstappen, first career win.
And at the tender age of 18, he can go out and party like he's never partied before.
Subson in giant letters. The 18-year-old was suddenly at the center of Formula One's universe. 2016 to 2018, challenges, controversies, and growth. But this was only the beginning of Max's story. Suddenly, under the sport's brightest spotlight, he learned fast that F1 was as unforgiving as it was exhilarating. Days after Spain came a reality check. Monaco 2016. The narrow streets humbled him. Crashing 3 times in one weekend was a rude alarm. Verstappen spun out in practice, clattered into the wall in qualifying, and finally retired on lap 48 with terminal damage. They deserve much more, he apologized to his team, calling it part of the learning curve. This was the humbling that even champions endure. He walked away, dusted himself off, and prepared for Canada. Over the rest of 2016, he showed real grit. In Brazil's pouring rain, he put on a masterclass, passing Nico Rosberg on a soaked track and almost snatching victory despite huge slides. But the season had its downs too. In the final standings, he only managed a handful of points finishes beyond Spain. Still, Red Bull made their feelings clear. They extended his contract already, affirming the faith that Max was their future. 2017 was equally mixed. Mechanical gremlins and crashes danced around his points. The season began in frustration at Bahrain, where a sudden brake failure took him out while he was challenging for the podium. Further DNFs came from reliability and even wheel-to-wheel encounters. In Hungary, for example, Max and Daniel Ricciardo tangles hand-in-hand on the first lap. Ricciardo was angry enough to call his mate's move amateur, but he also triumphed spectacularly. In May 2017, he dominated at Malaysia, leading every lap to win under rain. In October, he threw elbows past both Vettel and Hamilton at the start in Mexico and raced to another win. By the end of 2017, he had 2 wins and 16 podiums to his name, proof he could fight with the elite. Yet off-track questions swirled. Was his aggressive style too reckless? Why so many penalties? Even veterans critiqued his Russian roulette tactics. But increasingly, Max took it all in stride. His response to mistakes was simple: analyze, learn, and move on. Team engineers saw it in him. After crashes, he'd watch onboard footage again and again until he understood what went wrong. Then came 2018, a true turning point. The first few races provided ammunition to critics. He clattered out in China and Azerbaijan by driving too hard, and Monaco once again ended in a heavy crash. It looked like Max the Madman again. But midway through the year, everything changed. He found consistency. From Austria onwards, he was almost unbeatable when the car worked. Verstappen finished on the podium 11 times in 2018, far more than anyone else in the team. He won in Austria with a bold first-lap pass on Raikkonen and swept Mexico again. The only near miss came in Brazil, where a collision with backmarker Esteban Ocon spun him to second. Even then, after the race, he confronted Ocon in the pits.
Wanted to punch me and stuff, and this is not professional.
Across these years, Max was clearly evolving. The raw aggression remained, but he added a touch of poise and racecraft. Every crash, every penalty was a lesson. Red Bull engineers noted he was now driving within the performance envelope more often and finishing races instead of smashing into walls. By 2018, critics who once called him reckless were now grudgingly impressed at his maturity. Not bad for the guy who once had the FIA change the minimum age rule because he was too young to race. A rule reaction to his 2015 arrival. After what they saw, there can be no doubts now that he belonged in F1's top class. Red Bull's long-term bet on Max and path to #1. Through all the ups and downs, Red Bull had steadily doubled down on Verstappen. In mid-2017, they locked him in for the long haul, signing him to an early contract extension. Notably, they did this before even renewing veteran Ricciardo, sending a signal to the paddock. This teenager was their man. By 2018, the writing was on the wall. In September 2018, team principal Christian Horner publicly announced that Ricciardo would leave Red Bull at year's end, adding that the team would evaluate which driver partners Max Verstappen for the 2019 season. In other words, Red Bull was now Max-centric. He had become the undisputed face and future of the team. The transformation was obvious by early 2019. Max went into that season as the leader with a brand new teammate. Red Bull rebuilt their car around his preferences and even shifted personnel so that his engineers focused on extraction for him. Meanwhile, all his rivals knew Red Bull had essentially 2 leaders, Max and the car. In short, the team had gambled on a teenager, and so far he was winning hands down. Today, Max Verstappen is a multiple world champion and one of F1's most dominant stars. But none of it would have come about without that 18-year-old's epic day at Barcelona. Everything changed on May 15, 2016. What had seemed like a fairy tale promotion became a thunderous declaration. A new era was born. L1's chroniclers would say that victory was when Max well and truly arrived on the world stage. It silenced doubters, electrified fans, and proved beyond question that Red Bull's bold gamble was right. In the grand scope of his career, that Spanish GP win remains the ignition point. It proved a teenager could beat veteran champions at their own game, and it inspired a nation to follow him with pride. From then on, the hunger never left him. Each race since has had the echo of that first triumph. When he finally does hang up his helmet, history will look back on that Barcelona afternoon as the moment an 18-year-old changed the sport's destiny. It's a reminder, sometimes one incredible win can light the fuse for decades of greatness.